Hello, my Minnow friends. This is Menopause Taylor bringing you the state of menopause in the world today. And we've been talking about food lately because, food is important to your menopause too. And what I like to talk about today is misleading food labeling. It's another topic in the category of dietary options for managing your menopause. And I talked about food itself, but I haven't talked about the labeling on food. I've talked about plant-based foods, dairy, spices, gluten, nutrition myths, but this time I want to talk about the writing, the labeling that is on packaging that misleads you. And you're going to be so shocked at some of what I have to teach you. This is one of these talks that is purely practical. And you really ought to get your whole family to listen to this. This is the kind of information that nobody teaches you. But after hearing this, you are going to start noticing the labeling tricks on most foods. Now, first I want to distinguish the different kinds of labeling on food. All packaged food has two different types of labeling. On the front, back, and sides of the package, you're going to see all sorts of written information. That's the material we will be addressing today. But in a rectangular white box, you'll see what is called a nutrition label. We will not address that today. That's what I will address in the next broadcast. So for purposes of this broadcast, we are only talking about all that stuff that is not inside the white nutrition label. And I'm going to teach you the pitfalls of all this writing that you see all over the package. And there are multiple different categories of labeling pitfalls. So what I'll do is address them by category, and I'll give you examples for each one of them. Okay, so the first category of misleading food labeling is misleading health claims. Now, this is where the label uses a term or makes a claim that is false or misleading. And that term or claim makes you think the food is healthier than it really is. So, to demonstrate, the most common misleading health claim is use of the word natural. Now, you see this in many forms. You see all natural, made naturally, or just natural. Sometimes it'll say naturally delicious. Now, most consumers think the word natural on a food label means that there's no artificial ingredients, no artificial colors, non-GMO, no pesticides, and no drugs or antibiotics. Well, I hate to tell you this, but it means none of those things. All it does is mislead you into thinking it means more than it actually does. The fact is that the FDA does not even have a definition for the word natural. And that means that the lack of government standards allows companies to use it to mean whatever they want it to mean. The word natural doesn't even mean the food is healthy. At most, it means that there are no synthetic or lab-made ingredients in it. But see, there's a lot of room for interpretation there. So a food bearing the word natural on its label may contain preservatives, it may be injected with sodium, it may have high fructose corn syrup in it, which of course the company will say is natural because it comes from corn. So don't fall for this. If a food is packaged in the first place, it probably isn't natural. Natural foods are obvious. They are all the fresh fruits and vegetables, raw nuts, and whole grains that don't require any packaging at all. So don't believe it when you see the word natural on a package. It's hardly ever natural. Okay, another misleading health claim is use of the word energy. So the package might say high energy or high in energy or gives you energy, or it might say energizing. Do you know what energy is in terms of food? It's calories, period. When you see it on a food label, it usually means that it's high in sugar because sugar has a lot of calories. So energy is calories. So just substitute the word calories for the word energy and your interpretation will be much more accurate. Okay, the next term is the term real ingredients. Now this one kills me. What in the world does that mean? I mean, you probably assume that it means ingredients of premium or higher quality, but it does not mean that at all. Sometimes you'll see something that says made with real fruit. Products that say made with real fruit may not contain much or any of the type of fruit pictured on the box. They do not have to disclose the percentage of any of the ingredients. So there could just be a speck of real fruit, and they could still write made with real fruit on the package. The only real fruit is the kind of fresh fruit that you see in the produce area that does not have to have any writing on it for you to know that it's real fruit. The fact that it's real fruit is really obvious. So don't ever fall for the words real fruit. Now the next misleading label is the word organic. The word organic refers to how the food was grown. It does not reflect how healthy the food is at all. An organic food can still be full of fat, calories, and sugar. It can still be genetically modified. It may have been grown in a heavily polluted country. It may still be full of heavy metals. None of these things has anything to do with the regulations for what qualifies as organic. So don't assume that organic means healthy or uncontaminated or safe. It doesn't. All organic means is that the food was grown a certain way, and nothing else about the food is taken into account. Okay, so that's the first category of misleading health claims. It includes all of the following terms: natural, energy, real ingredients, and organic. Okay, now the second category of misleading labels is what we call nutrient call-outs. Now this is where there's a banner of nutrition information emblazoned on the front of the product. In the food industry, they call it facts up front. But the problem is that the term was created by the food industry itself. And the other problem is that they are not facts, they are fibs. And the most telling thing is that you see them most commonly on unhealthy foods. So this is where the front of the package advertises what's in the package. A popular one is high protein. See, protein is a buzzword these days. When you see it, you think, oh, if it has protein, it must be healthy. But you're wrong. Sometimes the label will say, now with added protein. But here are the parameters for using any of these protein claims. It only has to have 25% more protein than the original version of the product. And the 25% more compares only to the other products made by that same company. So it just depends on how much protein was in the previous product made by that company. You see, that's not much of a real standard. Food companies can get around a lot of this by simply using the label added protein. It's as if more protein makes the product or us healthier. And the fact is that we already eat too much protein. So adding more isn't healthy, and it doesn't make the product more healthy. And then there's the next overused nutrient call out, which is multigrain, or made with whole grains, or 12 grain. You see these on everything. You can have multiple grains or 12 grains or even have a small percentage of whole grains, but none of these things makes the food healthy. What you have to qualify as healthy is whole grain, period. Singular, not plural. Whole grain. You want the product to be predominantly or fully whole grains. Whole grain should be the first item in the list of ingredients. If it's not the first item, then it's not predominantly whole grains. You can make a loaf of bread with every grain in the world, but if they are not whole grains, they are not worth eating. So you have all these multi-grain products, they mean nothing. Okay, next is the label high in antioxidants or high antioxidant activity. Now, we all know that antioxidants are good for us. And there are certain foods that are definitely high in antioxidants. They include fruits and vegetables like pomegranates, green tea, dark green veggies, berries, walnuts, cloves, cinnamon, oregano, even dark chocolate. But the foods with high antioxidant activity don't usually come in a package that requires a lot of labeling. They're fresh fruits and vegetables, so don't fall for the high antioxidant labeling. Another one is a label that claims immunity boosters. Now, this is where a product claims to contain vitamins or minerals, but usually it's a product that normally doesn't contain those vitamins or minerals. And the mere fact that this unusual product does contain these vitamins and minerals means that it contains very little. Companies really actually walk a fine line with this claim. It can trigger intense scrutiny by the FDA. There's things like vitamin water. You know that water doesn't contain vitamins, right? So vitamin water costs a whole lot more than regular water, and it's a lot sweeter. So does it make any sense at all to buy water that contains vitamins? And how much of a vitamin does the water have to contain to warrant calling it vitamin water if water doesn't contain any vitamins? Okay, so here's another nutrient call out. Everyone's seen this one. This one's high fiber. High fiber means processed. These products are boosted with a processed form of fiber. They are not full of the fiber you get in fresh fruit and vegetables. Instead, they're in the form of purified powders like maltodextrin. So instead of fiber, you get fibs. We should call them high fiber, not high fiber. You'll see these fake fibers disguised under the names of oat fiber, wheat fiber, oat hull fiber. But don't fall for these fibbers. Just eat fresh fruit and veggies for your fiber. Oh, and there's another one, a trendy one, superfood. Now just think about this. Would you really fall for it? Superfoods are nothing more than trendy ingredients that are more expensive than other foods. They're 99% spin and 1% science. The real superfoods will always be fruits and vegetables. And there's no need to write superfood on those products or on the packages. And then there's some really specific ones like creamy, which really just means full of fat. And there's the term fresh, which just means not frozen or canned, but you can actually find some canned products that are actually labeled as fresh. Okay, so to summarize the nutrient call-outs, watch out for high in protein, multigrain or 12 grain, high in antioxidants, immunity boosters, high fiber, really high fiber, superfood, creamy, and fresh. Okay, and now the third big category of misleading food labeling is to advertise what's missing. In other words, to point out what the food does not have. Now you see this everywhere in every which way. The most popular is some version of fat-free or cholesterol-free or calorie-free. This one is really tricky. These labels lead you to believe that the product is lacking in fat or calories, when in fact it isn't. What about light, L-I-G-H-T or L-I-T-E? That can really fool you. You probably think it means less fat. But guess what? It may refer to a lighter color, a lighter taste, or minimally decreased fat.